Michelle Harding, a young and intrepid researcher, found herself standing before the ominous gates of Blackwood Manor. Rumors of its shadowy history had been whispered by locals for generations, but it was the story of the Weeping Well that truly piqued her curiosity. This hidden chamber, said to contain an ancient artifact with the power to grant wishes, was the focus of her latest obsession. With a deep breath and a steady hand, she raised the ornate knocker and let it fall against the iron-banded wood. The sound echoed through the manor, startling a flock of crows that had been perched atop the weather vane. They took flight in a cacophony of caws, disappearing into the misty sky. Silence returned to the manor as Michelle waited, her heart racing with anticipation and dread. After what seemed like an eternity, the creak of a rusty hinge filled the air, and the gateway slowly swung open. Standing before her was Silas Blackwood, the manor's sole remaining inhabitant. He was an elderly man, his once handsome features now etched with age and sorrow. His eyes were sunken deep into their sockets, and he moved with the slow, weary gait of someone who has seen far too much. "What business do you have here, Miss Harding?" he asked, his voice little more than a raspy whisper. Michelle steeled herself, pulling out her notebook and pen. "I'm here to investigate the rumors of the Weeping Well," she replied, trying to sound confident despite her own doubts. "I believe it holds the key to understanding the manor's dark history." Silas studied her for a long moment before nodding slowly. "Very well," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But know this, Miss Harding, the Weeping Well is not a thing to be trifled with. It has bested many who have come before you, and it may well consume you as well." His words sent a shiver down Michelle's spine, but she pushed forward nonetheless, determined to uncover the truth about the Weeping Well and the mysterious manor that housed it. Silas led her through the manor's crumbling halls, the silence oppressive and the air thick with an eerie sense of foreboding. As they walked, Michelle couldn't help but notice the way the shadows seemed to dance and writhe, as if they were alive with some unseen malevolence. The dust-covered portraits that lined the walls watched her like ghostly sentinels, their vacant eyes seeming to follow her every move. Finally, they reached a hidden chamber at the heart of the manor. The Weeping Well stood before them, its ancient stonework etched with strange symbols and runes. At its center, a single tear trickled down the cheek of a stone statue that towered above them. Michelle's heart raced as she gazed upon the artifact, unable to contain her excitement and trepidation. "Here it is," Silas whispered, his voice barely audible. "The Weeping Well. It has guarded its secrets for centuries, and now you stand before it. Be warned, Miss Harding, what you wish for, you shall receive. But at what cost?" Michelle hesitated for a moment, her thoughts racing. Should she make a wish? What would she wish for? The truth, perhaps? Or would that be too dangerous? As she contemplated her choice, the well seemed to pulsate with an otherworldly energy, as if it were alive and waiting for her to make up her mind. Finally, she steeled herself and took a deep breath. "I wish to know the truth about Blackwood Manor," she said, her voice steady despite the weight of her decision. "I wish to uncover the secrets that have been hidden here for so long." As soon as the words left her lips, the air in the chamber seemed to shift, and the statue atop the well came to life, its stone features twisting into a malevolent grin. "So be it," it rasped, its voice ancient and inhuman. "But be warned, mortal. The knowledge you seek shall not come without a price." Silas's eyes widened in alarm, but he said nothing. Instead, he placed a trembling hand on Michelle's shoulder, as if trying to comfort her. "Michelle," he whispered, his voice filled with warning. "You do not know what you have unleashed." The statue loomed over her, its shadow stretching across the chamber like the claw of some immense, unseen beast. Slowly, it began to descend, its stone feet grinding against the ancient stonework as it lowered itself toward her. As it drew closer, Michelle could see the runes etched into its chest, glowing with a malevolent energy that made her heart race. "The manor's history is long and dark," the statue hissed, its grin widening. "But know this, mortal, you have now crossed the threshold. There is no turning back." Its voice echoed through the chamber, filling her with dread. Michelle swallowed hard, feeling the weight of her decision pressing down upon her. She had come here seeking the truth, and now it was within her grasp. But at what cost? Was she prepared to pay the price that came with it? The statue loomed closer still, its cold, stone fingers mere inches from her face. She closed her eyes, steeling herself for whatever came next. Silas stood beside her, his hands shaking. He knew what was about to happen, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. He could only hope that Michelle was strong enough to face whatever horrors lay ahead. As the statue's fingers brushed against her cheek, a chill ran down Michelle's spine. Its touch felt cold and unyielding, like the grip of death itself. She gritted her teeth, trying to ignore the fear that threatened to overwhelm her. The statue continued its descent, moving ever closer, its grin becoming more menacing with each passing moment. Finally, its lips pressed against hers, and Michelle felt a rush of icy coldness surge through her body. It was as if all the air had been sucked from her lungs, leaving her gasping for breath. When the statue pulled away, she opened her eyes, uncertain of what she would find. The world around her had changed, as if she were seeing it through a new pair of eyes. The dusty portraits on the wall seemed to shift and twist, their features contorting into expressions of malevolence and despair. Even the manor itself seemed to groan and creak, as if it were alive and in pain. "Now you see," the statue rasped, its voice echoing through the chamber. "Now you know the truth. But be warned, mortal. This knowledge comes at a great cost. It has tainted you, marked you. And soon, the world will know what you have become." As Michelle stood there, struggling to comprehend the weight of her newfound knowledge, she realized that the price she had paid was only the beginning. The real battle was yet to come. Silas looked at her, his eyes filled with concern. "Michelle," he whispered. "I fear that your time here has changed you. You must leave this place, before it's too late." But she couldn't leave. Not now. Not with the truth burning within her. The manor seemed to tremble around them, as if it were alive and preparing for some great confrontation. The dusty portraits on the walls shifted and twisted, their features contorting into expressions of malevolence and despair. Even the air seemed to grow thick and heavy, as if it were thick with the taint of darkness and corruption. Michelle felt herself begin to change, her body twisting and warping under the influence of whatever malevolent force had claimed her. Her flesh turned cold and pale, her hair whitened, and her eyes took on a strange, otherworldly glow. If she stared into a mirror, she would not see herself, but some hideous, inhuman creature staring back. "It's too late," the statue hissed. "The darkness has claimed you. Now, you must decide. Will you fight against it, or will you embrace your new power and become its tool?" Its gaze bored into her, challenging her to choose between two terrible fates. Michelle closed her eyes, feeling the darkness within her grow stronger, more insistent. She could sense the ancient power that coursed through her veins, the potential for both great good and terrible evil. The choice was hers, and it terrified her. She took a deep breath, steeling herself against the whispers of corruption that sought to sway her mind. "I will fight it," she said, her voice barely more than a whisper. "I will not let it control me. I will find a way to use this power for the greater good." The statue's grin widened, revealing sharp, jagged teeth. "A noble choice, mortal. But be warned. The path you have chosen is fraught with peril. You must tread carefully, for every step you take could bring you closer to the darkness, or further away from it." It gestured to the mirror, where Michelle still saw the monstrous creature that had replaced her reflection. "You will need to find a way to control your transformation, to harness your newfound abilities without becoming consumed by them." Michelle nodded, determination burning in her chest. She turned to Silas, her eyes filled with a fierce determination. "Silas, I need your help. I don't know how to control this power, or how to fight against it. Please, help me." Silas hesitated, his expression torn between fear and hope. He glanced at the statue, then back at Michelle. "I will help you, Michelle," he said softly. "But you must promise me something." Michelle nodded, her heart racing. "Anything. You must promise me that you will always fight for the light. No matter what, you must never allow the darkness to consume you completely." Michelle took Silas' hand in hers, squeezing it tightly. "I promise," she said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her chest. "I will always fight for the light." The statue's laughter filled the room, a chilling cacophony that sent shivers down Michelle's spine. "Foolish mortals," it cackled. "Do you truly believe that you can defeat the darkness that has claimed you? The forces you will face are ancient and powerful beyond your comprehension. You will need more than mere promises to survive this." Ignoring the statue's taunts, Michelle turned back to Silas. Silas nodded, his expression grim. "Then let us begin. First, you must learn to control your transformation. Close your eyes and focus on your breath. Feel the darkness within you, but do not let it consume you. Visualize the light, the goodness, that you wish to bring forth. As you breathe in, draw in the light, and as you breathe out, release the darkness." Michelle shut her eyes, taking a deep breath. She could feel the darkness coiling within her like a serpent, but she forced herself to focus on the light, the warmth that spread through her chest as she inhaled. With each breath, she felt a little more in control, a little more like herself. Silas placed a hand on her shoulder. "Good," he said. "Now, try to shift your focus. Visualize the statue, the darkness it embodies. As you breathe in, draw in its power, and as you breathe out, release the light." Michelle hesitated, unsure if she was ready for this. But she trusted Silas, and so she tried. She imagined the statue's cold, malevolent gaze, and felt the darkness within her grow stronger. With each breath, she drew in the statue's power, allowing it to flow through her veins, filling her up. And with each breath, she released the light, pushing back against the darkness. The air in the room seemed to shift, as if a storm were brewing. The statue's grin widened, and its eyes glowed brighter. "Very good," it hissed. "But be warned, mortal. The balance you seek is a delicate one. One slip, and you may tip the scales forever." Michelle opened her eyes, feeling more in control. She turned back to Silas, her transformation now fully under her control. "I can feel it," she said, her voice steady. "I can use this power, but I won't let it consume me." Silas nodded, a proud smile spreading across his face. "Then let us begin our journey," he said, taking Michelle's hand. "But remember, the darkness you face is ancient and cunning. You must always stay vigilant, for even the slightest lapse could prove disastrous." Together, they left the chamber, emerging into the grand hall of the manor. The once familiar space now felt foreign and ominous, the shadows seeming to writhe and twist as if alive. Michelle could feel the weight of the darkness pressing down on her, threatening to drag her back into the depths of despair. But she clung to Silas' hand, drawing strength from his presence and his wisdom. They made their way through the manor, navigating the twisting corridors and hidden passageways that Silas had taught her about during their lesson. Each turn revealed a new challenge, a new test of Michelle's resolve and her mastery over the darkness within her. The statue's laughter echoed through the halls, taunting and mocking them, but they ignored it, focusing instead on their mission. As they neared the exit, they came upon a massive iron door guarded by two grinning, skeletal figures. Silas drew a sword, his movements fluid and confident. "This is where we part ways," he said to Michelle. "You must face this final trial alone." Michelle felt a surge of determination well up within her. "I'm ready," she said, steeling herself for the battle ahead. "I will not fail you, Silas." Silas nodded, his expression grave. "Then go, my friend. And remember, the light always finds a way through the darkest of times." With that, he stepped forward, engaging the skeletal guardians in battle. Michelle watched as Silas fought with skill and grace, his sword dancing through the air like a blur. The skeletons seemed to be no match for him, but they were relentless, their attacks unyielding. She could tell that even Silas was beginning to tire. With a final burst of speed, she sprinted forward, joining him in the battle. Together, they fought side by side, their movements in perfect harmony. They were a well-oiled machine, their attacks and defenses so fluid that it was impossible to tell where one ended and the other began. The skeletons, sensing their desperation, redoubled their efforts, but it was to no avail. Slowly, inexorably, they began to fall, their bones tumbling to the floor with dull thuds. When only one remained, Silas turned to Michelle, his eyes shining with pride. "Well done, my friend," he said, offering her his hand. "You have proven yourself worthy." Together, they approached the final skeleton, ready to face whatever challenge it might present. As they drew closer, however, the skeleton began to glow with an eerie light. Before they could react, it vanished in a cloud of dust, leaving behind only a single, glowing orb. Silas looked at Michelle, his expression solemn. "It seems we have one last task," he said. "We must take this orb to the heart of the manor and use it to seal the portal from the other world." Michelle nodded, her heart racing with anticipation. "Lead the way," she said, following Silas as he turned and began to walk back through the halls. The air seemed to crackle with energy, the tension thick as they made their way toward their destiny. The shadows danced around them, sinister and foreboding, but they ignored them, focusing instead on their mission. Finally, they reached the center of the manor, the heart of the darkness. There, in the center of a circular chamber, stood a massive, pulsing portal, tendrils of dark energy reaching out toward them like grasping claws. "We must act swiftly," Silas said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Once we destroy the orb, the portal will close, and the otherworld's influence will be sealed away from our world." Michelle nodded, her heart racing. She gripped the glowing orb tightly, feeling its energy coursing through her veins. As they approached the portal, the air around them seemed to shimmer and warp, the darkness pressing in on them like a physical weight. She could feel the power of the otherworld tugging at her, trying to draw her in, but she refused to yield. Silas positioned himself in front of her, his sword raised, prepared to defend her if necessary. "Now," he shouted, and together they hurled the orb at the portal. It sailed through the air, trailing a ribbon of light behind it, and struck the center of the portal with a deafening boom. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the tendrils of dark energy began to retract, the portal shrinking in on itself. The shadows that had filled the chamber receded, revealing the pristine, untouched manor beyond. The air grew still and calm once more, as if the world held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Silas turned to Michelle, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "It is done," he said, his voice filled with awe. "We have saved this place, and restored balance to the world." They stood there for a moment longer, taking in the sight before them, the weight of what they had accomplished settling heavily on their shoulders. Finally, Michelle spoke. "Silas, thank you. For everything." He looked at her, his eyes warm and gentle. "It was my honor, my friend. And I am grateful to have shared this journey with you." They embraced then, a silent understanding passing between them, as they stood together in the aftermath of their victory, the light of hope shining brightly in their eyes. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, consider subscribing to stay updated with our latest stories, give us a like if you want to see more, and drop a comment below to let us know your thoughts.